Just get set up here. All right, what we're going to be talking about today are change orders. Talk a little bit about what they actually are, why change orders are becoming more common in today's marketplace, why I think you should avoid change orders whenever possible. We'll talk a little bit about the types of change orders, information that should be in a change order, and then I'm going to finish off by doing a demonstration of the features of change orders in Manage360. Definition: a written document which modifies the plans and specifications and or the price of a construction contract. The key word there is written. I think a lot of people unfortunately do verbal change orders, which will lead to some problems, particularly when it comes time to collect money. Another definition is a supplement to the contract which provides authority to pay for revisions in quantities or authorized changes to design features or specifications. Again, the key there, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a change in cost. It may mean just that there's a change in the design or some of those specifications. Written alteration or change in the provisions of a contract accomplished by mutual agreement of both parties. Key part there is mutual agreement of both parties. And I think, again, one of the keys is to make sure that both sides, you and your customer, understand exactly what's involved with the change orders and what some of those costs are. I think what's happened probably over the last 2 to 3 years, there's been a significant increase in pressure on in the landscape construction industry on price. So price has certainly become the driving force and the primary decision for a lot of people to base their decision on when they're selecting a landscape contractor. So I think what's happened, the industry has responded by basically putting as little into a proposal as possible, because you're trying to keep that initial price that you're presenting to the customer as low as possible. I think ultimately what ends up happening is you're going to have a lot of change orders, and the customer's going to feel like they've been baited and switched. You're going to lose that customer satisfaction. I think ultimately the company's reputation may be harmed. And I think most importantly, you're going to lose what I think is the most important place to get new business, and that's direct referrals. I think most of the business now that's profitable in the residential design build arena is repeat business and direct referrals, because at least in those two scenarios you're able to maintain some profitability on those projects. The key to overcoming this situation, I believe, is improved communications and customer education. I think it's critically important that you clearly define the scope of work, the quality of work that you're producing, the service that you're going to be providing, and back that up with testimonials, rather than trying to fight that price battle, certainly by lowering the scope and not including items that you know are probably going to become part of the project. I think the other part of this is, even if you're going to present a low price, it's very important to let the customer know that there is a potential that some of these additional items may occur or scenarios may occur which may lead to some additional costs. So that if you're in a very competitive marketplace, at least you're letting the customer know that there are some potential scenarios that would occur. The reason I think you shouldn't be doing change orders, I see a lot of companies saying, well, you know, it's a small project, but it's going to lead to a lot of change orders. And I think those change orders end up being a lot less profitable than most companies realize. There are a couple of reasons why. I think there's a reduction of production efficiency due to just the sheer lack of time. So you just don't have the time to prepare. You can't develop your typical plan. You can't combine a lot of your resources so that you can be efficient. There's some short-term production problems due to project postponement. You know, what do you do with that crew while that project's on hold and we're busy getting the approval or making some of those design changes during the change order process. I think another really important aspect is the impact that it's going to have on the previous commitments that you've already made to clients on the next couple of jobs that now have to be pushed off or rescheduled. One of the other things I see companies doing is they'll start the next project, but they'll actually split the crew into two. Most companies don't have a foreman at the same level, so you're starting that project. The foreman may not be as comfortable or familiar with the project, and so now you're really hurting two projects, and you're really not going to get the both projects done any faster. So I certainly wouldn't recommend splitting up your crews as you go through, trying to keep on that schedule. The other issue from a sales standpoint is now the salesperson has to be brought back into the production process. Basically, they're going to have to be doing a lot of the negotiating, changes to the design, and selling the change order to the customer. There are some companies that feel that change orders are profitable. I certainly disagree. A couple of reasons why: there are some additional costs attached to change orders that really need to be part of the equation. You maybe have to redo some of the work due to changes in the design or scope. An example of this was if you were building a patio, you'd basically finish the patio, customer puts their furniture on and says, hey, the thing's a little small, can we increase this by 100 square feet? And yes, certainly you can, but the customer's typical expectation is that he's going to pay a fairly the same unit price that he would have paid on the original patio. But you're going to have to take up some of the pavers, you're going to have to take up the edge restraint, you're going to have to add sub-base. So there's a lot of work that would have to be redone to add that additional 100 square feet. There usually will be additional material handling and delivery costs. If you had a tandem of CR6 or sub-base material delivered, now you've got to go out and get a couple of tons because the delivery doesn't make sense anymore. There's crew inefficiency. While we're waiting for that approval, the project itself may be suspended, so that could create some additional mobilizations due to some of those delays. And I think that's another aspect that hopefully you can deal with your client up front. One of the suggestions I would have is that you have an additional mobilization fee clause in your contract, and this can be used whenever there's a delay that the customer would pay a fixed fee for any additional mobilizations required. That fee typically is based on the load and unload, mobilization, and cleanup multiplied by the number of men that would be on that crew. There definitely is the salesperson's role as they go through the change order process. I think it's very important to discuss the mechanics of the change order. We've already talked about the potential impact on production. We certainly want to reduce that impact as much as possible. We want to make sure that we get these change orders approved as quickly as we possibly can. So a big part of that, obviously, most of the time our clients are not at home. So we want to find out what are the best methods, the best time, and the best place to contact the customer. Make sure that we've got their phone numbers, fax numbers, emails, every contact that would allow us to get to that client as quickly as we can. We also want to potentially talk about whether there's a contingency that's been built into the project. Basically what I mean by that is you can upfront negotiate a contingency fee with the client so that would cover any of the small change orders that typically do occur on just about any design build project that you'll be involved in. I think another important element is who has the authority to sign change orders. And again, I think just a warning here if both parties, if the husband and the wife have not signed the original contract, they would not both have the authority to sign change orders. Change order, as I said earlier, is the changing of the original contract. So only the people that have signed that contract have the authority to sign the change orders. Another aspect or way that you can use to help with speeding up the change order process is to negotiate a time and material up front. So basically we would say any additional work required would still need to be approved by the client, but that any of the change order work will be billed on a time and material basis. The time could be $45 a man-hour. Any equipment to be used would be billed out at a certain rate, and we would just add 20 or 30% to the cost of the materials. So that would be another way to speed up the change order process. I think the salesperson also needs to, during the sales process, let the customer know that we really don't want change orders. And I think this is almost a way to differentiate yourself in your marketplace. I think it's important the client knows that there is a possibility that the project would be postponed or rescheduled. And I think from the sales standpoint, it's very important that the salesperson realize that it's not just getting phase one or just getting the customer to sign the contract that matters. It's really, are we going to be able to produce a profitable project? And by adding these change orders is not going to lead to that. Well, let's talk about some details in the contract. Again, I think this is somewhat a response to the price pressure, but a lot of companies don't include specific details on their proposals. Hardscaping colors, for example, paver colors are not specified. Plant varieties are not specified. Material allowances are used. So instead of listing all the drainage parts that you're going to need for a drainage installation, the salesperson would just say drainage allowance $300. The problem with that, yes, it certainly speeds up the estimating time, but the problem for the production crew is they really don't know what they need to bring out with them, and a lot of times these details are only realized, and that missing information is only realized during the production phase, where we now don't have, again, time to adequately prepare. Miscellaneous materials, again, very common. I've been looking for that miscellaneous perennial variety. I've yet to find it. But we need to specify the perennials, exactly genus and species, so that the people that are preparing for the project, the supervisors, the purchase agents, are able to adequately prepare for these jobs. To be determined is another, I think, very dangerous. A to be determined by me, in my mind, automatically means that you're going to have a change order on this project. If we don't have all the details, it's going to be impossible to build what you bid. And that really is the key. We certainly don't want to not provide everything to the client that we've committed to, but we also don't want to overbuild. So we want to make sure that we've got just the scope of work listed that we're required to build. There certainly are some customer challenges as you go through dealing with the clients and change orders. A lot of clients will say, you know what, just don't worry about the change orders, just do the work, we'll handle all the money at the end of the project. Unfortunately, as the customer goes through this, they may not realize just how much some of these change orders are, and at the end of the process, either the customer is going to be unhappy or you're going to be negotiating the price and probably reducing the price of their change order. Another common statement I've heard many times, if I'd known the change order was going to cost that much, I would never have done the work. So now as a contractor you feel bad, suddenly we're negotiating work, which in turn just reduces the profitability of that particular project. All change orders should be discussed before any of the work commences. and that price needs to be determined, the scope of work needs to be determined. All of that needs to be done ahead of time. 3 types of change orders: a billable change order, non-billable change order, and an internal change order. So billable change orders, again, these are the ones that at least we're going to make some money on, hopefully. Customer changes the scope of work. Perhaps they increase the size of a patio. You may have had 6 or 7 trees in a screen, and the customer says, no, I'd like to add to that. And there may just be a lack of expectation on the customer standpoint, so we need to add more work to the project. There may also be some billable work that comes out of contract clauses, things like underground obstructions, perhaps additional structural and support requirements, and then damage by other trades. And again, this is very common during commercial work. There are times where a change order will actually be a refund, where we would be giving money back to the client because a portion of the project was not completed. Non-billable change orders, these are things that may or may not involve cost. For example, if you changed a paver color, it really wouldn't involve a cost in most cases, but it can certainly have an impact. I have a client who had installed a paver patio. The product was delivered to the job site that was on the design and in the contract. The customer said, I don't really like that color, can we please change it? My client then went out, got the new color that she had picked, installed the patio with that new color, and at the end of the project the customer said, I don't like it, I want to go back to what my contract called for. Again, you really don't know who you're dealing with in many cases, so make sure even something as simple as a paver color requires a change order. Plain substitutions, again, a lot of times either because the nurseries may not have either the sizes or the varieties that we have or that we need, plain substitutions are made. There may also be small changes that don't involve a lot of money. We certainly don't want to nickel and dime the customer. This certainly holds true on larger projects. Unfortunately, there will be some bidding and estimating errors, omissions, and mistakes. There may even be some customer negotiations. And then finally, there's some sales giveaways. And these are something that, again, I think there are a couple of issues here. One, if you are compensating and paying bonuses based on performance, your production people shouldn't be held accountable for sales giveaways. And I think the salespeople certainly should be. We should at least be tracking that and looking at the impact on profitability for those salespeople. One of the questions I get asked a lot is how do you handle change orders on large projects? And these are typically doing a $100,000 project for somebody and they asked you for another tree. Should you really be giving them a change order? And the short answer is no, but only no to a point. So what I'd recommend that you do is develop a contingency cost that is part of the estimate. You can either discuss that with the client, or if you really think that these change orders and these contingencies are definitely going to occur, add that contingency to the project so that it gives you a little bit of flexibility with additional work that you know that you're going to be doing. So what ends up happening here and there, we use this contingency fee to pay for some of those change orders, and then obviously communicate to the client when they're starting to get towards the end of that contingency fee that you had set aside. Again, this at least allows you to continue working. you don't need the change orders because you've got that covered. One of the other things I think that's important is that you continually update the client with regards to these small change orders. Even if you don't have a contingency fee, keep updating the client with some of these small change orders so that at some point you can go back to the client and say, look, I know they're small, but there have been a lot of them, and we've now exceeded $2,000 worth of small change orders, so everything from this point going forward I'm going to have to charge you for. But just make sure that you communicate that to the client. If you have a contingency that you've discussed with the client, depending on the profitability, you may want to give that back to the client. I would recommend, if at all possible, rather than to pay back monies to the client, upgrade certain aspects of the project to cover that. Internal change orders, basically these are a form of non-billable change orders. They're usually due to a company error, maybe bidding and estimating. There could be some incorrect material handling where we've delivered the wrong products to the job site. There may be some layout errors where we've laid out the shape or size of a patio that was incorrect. There could also be some quality issues where unfortunately we have created more work for ourselves because we didn't handle a quality issue at the right time. There could be some breakdowns of internal communications. This may relate to changes or scope of work, and these breakdowns typically will occur between the salesperson and the production department. And then also there are punch lists, the little things that we need to take care of typically at the end of a project. These types of internal change orders are usually and hopefully discovered during the pre-construction phase, and that at least allows us to identify that we have to change the scope of work or the materials required, and at least incorporate that into our normal efficient production process. So please don't try and hide these things. We want to bring these things into the open. We want to make sure that we take care of them as early on as possible so that we're reducing that liability that these non-billable, but things obviously that are going to cost the company money, we want to try and reduce that as much as possible. Couple of things about change order notes. So these are the notes that you would actually put onto the change order. They should fully describe the changes to the original contract, including the scope of work. These notes should be clear, concise, and detailed. I will tell you that often with an existing client, you may get a verbal approval. Obviously, there needs to be a trust that exists between you and the client. But I would still recommend that you follow up in writing and make sure that you get that change order signed by the client. Probably the best or worst story I have on change orders was I was working for somebody else many years ago. They had done a large project I was involved in with a household name. Unfortunately, at the end of the project, this person who was very well known said to my boss, I'm not paying $42,000 worth of change orders, and this was primarily due to the fact that they had not been signed by the client. A lot of the change orders had been signed, but $42,000 had not been signed. My client did not receive $42,000, had a significant impact on the company. One of the other things I'd recommend is that you get signed change orders and a deposit. The deposit really will help verify that there has actually been a change order signed. Along with that, we want to have payment schedules. Change orders should always have their own and separate payment schedules. So you have an original contract that will have milestone payments in it. You want the change order to have their own separate milestone payments. Please do not wait till the end of the project because this is when, again, whoever's got what they want and the customer has the money, that's what we want. They have their project, which is what they wanted, If there's an imbalance at the end of the job, they're holding a lot of money. Unfortunately, this is when we end up doing a lot of negotiating. Examples of payment schedules, 50% upon acceptance of the change order and 50% on completion of the change order. Again, the key there is upon the completion of the change order. You could also use a third, and a third, but please remember, as soon as that change order is completed, we want to make sure that we're collecting that money. The change orders will certainly help improve cash flow. On some design build projects, these change orders can become fairly costly, fairly large, so it'll certainly help the cash flow. And just remember, the most difficult payments to collect on any project are change order payments and the final payments of a project, so we want to make sure that we keep those as small as possible. Your payment terms should always be due upon receipt. You all own landscape companies, not banks. We should not be bankrolling these projects. Change order terms and conditions, again, just something to be thinking about. You may have to put additional terms and conditions into the change order due to the scope of work or the type of work that you're doing. Same thing with warranties. There may be some warranties required that were not in the original contract. So an example of that would be if you did not have lighting and you had a lighting warranty, please make sure that you add the lighting warranty to the change order so that it becomes part of the combined contract. Crew notes, again, particularly with the non-billable internal, but also with regards to the customer, because we know that a lot of these change orders are not very profitable. We need to make sure that we are completing the scope of work, that we are communicating effectively. You want to make sure that we're giving the crew as much information as possible. Some of that information may be technical in nature. It may be how we bid or estimated the change order. There could be some specific vendors that were used to reduce cost, and special instructions, if there are any special instructions with regards to the change order itself. So just a little bit about the change order module in Manage360. It's part of the job tracking portion of the program. It'll be an upgrade to the module. The basic process is you're going to create the change order. You'll print it. That'll be approved by the client. And then the change order and the original contract will merge together, and that'll now become your current contract. When you do that, your timesheets and job actuals will also be updated at the same time. The change orders are numbered as a decimal point. So if the original job was job number 123, the change order is going to be 123.1. The next change order is going to be 123.2. Next, we're going to move on to a demonstration of how the change order functionality will work within Manage360. I'm going to go through just a little bit of the setup. We'll talk about some of those notes that I briefly mentioned. And then I'm going to go through a couple of examples of changing a quantity, making a substitution, deleting an item, and then also talk a little bit about the impact on billing. So here I have the change order. This is part of the Jobs tab. And what you're going to see is this Contracts tab has been added. So basically, if you look at this drop down here, you have your current contract. And basically, if you wanted to look at that now, you would be able to take a look at what was originally bid on the project. This will also then show any other change orders that you may have. So what you would do is click on the Add New Change Order. And this would then allow you to select what we need to do for this specific change order. You would put in your description up at the top. You can list who had actually requested the change order, if there was a completion date for the change order. Here are the different notes. So the change order request note, these are internal notes. Again, typically if it's an internal non-billable change order, these are notes that we certainly wouldn't want the customer to see. These would be our crew notes. So this is what would appear on the work order itself for the change order. The change order notes are the notes that would actually appear on the change order that we would be giving the client. And this is where we would describe the actual scope of work for that change order. Terms and conditions, again, the terms and conditions required specifically for this change order. So in this specific example, I'm going to change the quantity of the pavers. And when I had brought in the original bid, I had used a kit. So I'm going to just click on the 400 square feet. The change order here is I'm going to change this paver patio to 500 square feet. And this now will actually go through and show you exactly what it's taken or added onto this particular patio. In this particular scenario, if it's a larger change order, I would recommend that you adjust the general conditions. If it's a smaller change order, like a plant substitution, there's probably no need to edit or change the general conditions. So if I go to the general conditions here, it's a 13-hour addition. If I've got my normal crew size, we can see what it's adding on. What you want to be careful when you're looking at this is obviously I don't need 3 hours of site repair. I don't need 2 hours of layout as I go through adding this. I probably do want to make sure that my delivery costs are in there. My vehicle cleanup and travel certainly would be part of the cost of this change order. Update the change order. Now I can look at the general conditions that have been added to this particular change order. So in total, it's a $1,956 change order for the client. The other thing we had talked about is the payment schedule specific to each particular change order. 50% upon the acceptance of the change order and 50% upon the completion of that change order. So once we've developed the change order, we want to be able to present something to the client. And again, the way you lay this out will vary a little bit. Typically, you do want to show some details. Just as in our original proposal, I typically wouldn't show equipment, I wouldn't show labor or miscellaneous. It's typically just going to relate to the materials. In most cases, I would not show the material costs to the client. I also wouldn't want to show them general conditions. So if we take a look at what that looks like, there you can see the additional changes that we've added to the project. And right here you can see 1956 is the sum. So our $8,000 proposal is now a little over $10,000, and that's what we would give to the client to sign, verifying that they've approved that change order. So in this particular example, I'm going to approve the change order. And so what this does now is it's actually merging the original contract and the new change order. And so now if you look at what we have here is you have your original contract, you have an approved change order, and you now have your current contract. So the current contract actually contains the original contract and the approved change order. So just to show you another example of what can happen, making substitutions, again, is fairly common, particularly on planting. So let's just say that we wanted to substitute this little Richard Abelia. It's going to bring us back to our window just as if you were adding an item to an estimate. We would click on plants. Let's just say, for example, we actually, the nursery only had a number 5. So I'm actually going to reduce the quantity from 5 to 3 because I'm putting in a number 5 as opposed to a number 3. And I want to make sure that that goes to the planting work area. We add that to the change order, and you can see that would have a change of $79 if we wanted to look at the details of that. Basically what we've done is we've added 3 Edward Gouchers, 0.8 hours, and we've reduced the proposal by the 5 Little Richards and the 0.5, which leaves a balance of plus 3 man hours, 0.3 man hours for that particular change. Again, it would have its own payment schedule. And so as you start to go through these different scenarios, I'll just show you what the work area, the work order, sorry, would look like. Let's get back to my original section. So that approved change order for the paver patio. Once that's been approved, obviously we need to I'm sorry, my mistake. Once it's approved, you cannot produce the work order. Let me go through one of the pending. Nope. I apologize. Back to our contracts. And here we have, again, our lists. The other thing I wanted to show you was to delete an item. Sometimes, unfortunately, we have to delete parts of the project. So I'm going to delete this mulch here. And you can see the impact that this has had on the cost. So we've minus the 5 cubic yards and the 3 hours. Again, just in summary, again, I know there's a lot of pressure to price things. So we're using change orders more often. Again, I would recommend that you limit them as much as possible. I'm very confident that the change order process within Manage will provide some structure, hopefully be able to hold everybody accountable a little bit more, allow you to incorporate change orders into your job tracking, which again I think is going to prove that some of the change orders are not as profitable as we think. And I think, again, importantly, we're going to be able to better communicate with our clients and with our employees. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. I'm just answering a few more questions that we have on the side there, just about release dates. Right now we have some beta testers using this product, so we should be looking at the next week or two that we're going to have this product or this enhancement rolled out. and so we can look forward to that. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm just going to mute this now, and we're going to take the presenter off, and if you want to hang around and ask some questions, that's fine.